So after November 5th, a shocking surprise was delivered before all of us. The absolute drop and full-on implosion of MSNBC, NBC affiliates, and CNN. Now, CNN has a special place in my heart because, look, I've never hated a news agency or quote unquote corporate propaganda news agency more so than CNN. It has earned most of my hatred, and after all, seeing how CNN has played it constantly part of that shield wall of protecting the neoliberal corporate Democrats and constantly smearing progressives and independents. Nothing warms my heart than seeing them getting a full-on smack in the face. Because what better way to start your morning than to see CNN getting ripped apart? Now, of course, there's a lot to take into account, especially now that CNN is on the defense. But I love seeing them struggle. It's like it's like you're watching somebody fight, and you know they suck, and you want them to get out of that fight, but you also want to see them get knocked out.
Well, but so no matter what a judge
he's taking the side, and he's taking the side of a bunch of criminals.
Now, of course, for context, this is about the Trump deportations of migrants, and the thing is, CNN for a long time has dismissed the overall crisis that's happening at the border. I mean, the kids were still in cages when Biden was president, and the sanctuary cities were handled in a way that is forever going to scar not only the communities, but is going to leave a huge impact on the economies of these said sanctuary cities, most notably Chicago and the failure of Mayor Brandon Johnson.
He hasn't taken any side yet. Congressman, he hasn't taken any side yet. All he's done is put a stay on the White House action here so that he can review their use of their novel use, frankly, of the Alien Enemies
Oh, come
Act.
on. These guys, listen, these guys, the difference between God and these judges is God knows he's not one of these judges. They're arrogant. They practice this type of thing all the time. And if you had a conservative one doing it, you all would be raising total hell.
Again, Congressman, this isn't a question. This isn't a question about the media. This isn't a question about the media. No one's taking a side here. Congressman,
yes,
no one's taking a side here.
He is not.
I'm asking you about the Constitution. Is asking about the Constitution. Is asking about the Constitution taking a side. All I'm asking you is about the Constitution, what you think of it, and what you would advise this White House and your feeling about judicial rulings. And that seems to be upsetting you. I'm just trying to get your position on this and what you would advise the White House going forward.
It's not upsetting. I guess what upsets me is that you all at CNN continuously take the side of the far left, and that's why your ratings continue to plummet.
Whoa. Hold on. First of all, dude, don't call CNN the far left. All right. What they are is neoliberal centrist. There's nothing far left because they helped destroy progressives and independents. CNN was more than happy to destroy that, okay? CNN was more than happy to contribute to the Democrats, and CNN was more than happy to constantly play ball in dismissing any kind of real progressive change, all right? So, but it is true. They are hemorrhaging views, and that's rather funny.
CNN continuously take the side of the far left, and that's why your ratings continue to plummet. And I do not ever understand why y'all do that. Every time. I know you got to take the opposite side on everything, but you all are wrong on this one. Listen, this is a gang that took over an apartment complex in Colorado.
There's not been a side taken. We're trying to understand. Now, you can argue. You can argue. You can, Congressman, can you?
Wrong with you all?
Congressman,
you are so out of touch with what's 85% of this country does not support what you are spewing out right now.
We haven't spewed. The only one spewing is the guy who's talking uninterrupted right now.
How long does it take him to review this stuff? How long does it take him to review this stuff? These judges, he'll sit on his ass for months.
Well, the thing is, I think it's important for this judge to review this because, not to mention, there are things called error, right? Mistakes can happen. People could be wrongly deported for crimes they didn't commit. There is that factor to put in there, okay? Or either that, there have been those horrific moments where a U.S. citizen is wrongly profiled and also deported. These things have happened. I know. I hope that keeps you up at night.
So these criminals can stay in this country. This is all this is. This is overreach. And I'll guarantee you, if his kids had been murdered or raped, as has happened in this country to several American citizens by these thugs, that he would be taking a different position. But he's protected. You all protect him. You all have got to come off this. Seriously, I don't know how you all sleep at night when you protect criminals, murderers.
Congressman, can I ask you to stop for 1 second here? I think if you go through and analyze the questions.
Now, real quick here. First of all, I found the whole argument back and forth to be rather hilarious because, number one, CNN's being called out for its views, but all of corporate media is hemorrhaging views. In MSNBC, CNN, ABC, they're taking a hit. But just so you know, Fox News is too. Not as bad, but they're also bleeding views. Why? Because no one sits down and watches traditional media. Because traditional media, as we have learned, especially under the 4 years of the Biden-Harris administration, that number one, they didn't do anything unless they got an approval from the administration, from the establishment. And that kind of leads into this other video, okay? Because I think it's important for us to talk about CNN and MSNBC because Rick Sanchez was recently interviewed by Tucker Carlson, and he's been on MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News as well. And he explains to Tucker about his time working for RT and how he had more editorial freedom. Now, let's talk about editorial freedom because there's a lot of stories that we're going to have to address and talk about and speak about and, more importantly, look into because, first of all, when it comes down to stories about migration or the war or corruption in politics, it's very clear that the powers that be, the top dogs that run CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, all of them, will give the thumbs up or the thumbs down on whether said story can hit the airtime. Now, it's all crashing down. But when you do have people who are good at their job, I know what I said, MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, when you have people there, the talent, the reporters, who are doing a good job and want to tell a story or inform the American people, they got their hands tied behind their back. So I want to pull up this video. This is a few short minutes, but I think it's important for us to play it in its full entirety. So let's check it out.
I just asked since I worked.
Remind you about the war in Iraq, war in Afghanistan, military action in Libya, military action in Syria, war in Gaza, war in Ukraine. You know, maybe it's just me being paranoid here, but maybe I'm overthinking. And that's why I love you, my audience, because I'm proud of the audience that I've built here. You know, I got those on the left, those on the right. And you know what? I get a treasure trove of comments, you know, but, you know, anytime any person has ever challenged or questioned the war, did you guys notice that they got fired or were removed? Anytime they ever stepped out of line, they got less airtime. And that when you, a citizen, were asking questions, well, you were told by those that are hypnotized by corporate media that you're fringe, that you don't know anything. Oh, how dare you question and not follow the orders? See, this is the danger of corporate media. This is the danger of the establishment media. And this is why we need independent media. This is why we need to stand up against censorship. This is why we need to stand up against what is being ruled over us. Now, look, these two, Rick Sanchez, Tucker Carlson, they're part of that. All right. And to be fair, you know, I have my criticisms of them, but I also like this inside information about overall how the system works because we know, but let's get the further details about it. So let's continue on. Hold on. I want to pull this up here because we will be addressing this a little bit later on the show. Good morning. Was there ever a real ceasefire to begin with? Again, no, there wasn't. Shout out to Bad Cookies and shout out to INN. There was never going to be a real ceasefire. I mean, come on, folks. There was never going to be one. And the thing is, corporate media, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, ABC, CBS, they're never going to address it or talk about it. You would think they would push it like, oh my goodness, look at all this crisis. Look at all this destruction. Look at what's happening here. And they never did. Why? Because they had to follow orders. They were following orders under the Biden-Harris administration. They're following orders now, too. There's no fundamental difference. There's no fundamental change. There's still ongoing war. Why? Because the military-industrial complex is all connected together. I mean, who do you think's profiting off of the migration crisis? The prison industrial complex, too. It's all part of a game, a big game, a scary game. And if you were to report on it or talk about it, especially at CNN or these other things, oh, you're done, baby. Now, RT, here's the thing. I'll say this. I did like RT America. I thought some of the programming there was great. You know, I am open-minded to anything. Yes, even from the crap from corporate media. Why? Because I don't believe in censorship. If there's something I don't like, I, like a normal person, will walk away from it. I will not call for its censorship. I'll just turn it off. But I thought RT did some very good stories. I thought they did some very good content. And I feel very sad for all the people that lost their work and their livelihood when RT America, the doors were shut down. Way to go, Democrats. Way to believe in free speech. Biden, Kamala, looking at you. But then also, when we address the fact that the media is not talking about this horrific war that's still going on, there is no ceasefire. There is no ceasefire. There is no ceasefire.
You can't.
Sorry, let me rewind this.
Except me and some of the editors who had to put pictures.
Right, of course, right.
Yeah. But nobody was looking at it. Aha, no, this goes out. You can't say this. You can't say
That's
that.
amazing.
Because they trusted me. I mean, look, man. I mean, I've been a part of 2 Peabody Award-winning teams. I've got a DuPont. I've got 5 Emmys. I've interviewed 4 U.S. presidents. I've sat down with Fidel Castro and Mikhail Gorbachev. And yet there's not a single entity in the United States who seems to be.
I have a few questions about that, but you know what? I'm not going to be paranoid. But it's just okay. All right. Maybe that's why he's not there at RT, but okay. He's got another gig.
And while I was doing Ukraine war started.
Okay. Well, okay. I mean, let's face it, folks. He's had a little bit more freedom, more movement. It says a lot about the corporate media environment here, but there's no such thing as don't get fooled by the green grass. Okay, don't let the green grass fool you. There's always control at the top. Just because you might think you have a little bit more freedom, there's always the powers that be. But it is fascinating in the inside baseball of how CNN and corporate media work together, or how things are done. And in my opinion, I think the breakdown that Sanchez and Carlson did, especially in that 4-minute video clip, really shines a light on overall how our media is presented to the American people. We're not getting the facts, Jack, but the media system is dying. The system is falling apart. And I, for one, give it a thunderous applause. I am not a fan of how corporate media has played a role in dividing us and making us less critical. So it's a good way to start your morning. CNN getting roasted about their numbers, and also the inside baseball of how the establishment controls the stories that are supposed to empower you, the American people.